Okay, so folks, this is where things are going to get a little bit tricky. We're all going to have our thinking caps on for this one. So you're going to pick questions out of the basket. So you get to answer the question that's in the basket. Some of these you've seen before you came tonight. Some of them have been added by people as they came in. You have 90 seconds this time. How generous is that? 90 seconds to answer the question. Now, we know that there might very well be a question that someone else picks out that you think, that is my area of expertise, or that is something I'm really passionate about. I want to answer that question. And that's why you've all been given a wild card. One wild card that you get to play. So you'll have to choose this wisely. If you want to answer, in addition to the person who draws it out, they get to answer the question. If you also want to answer the question, then bring me your wild card and you will get to answer that question as well. If we whip through things like we did earlier on, we'll just put the questions back in the hat and you might get a second chance to answer the question. So think about that when you're using a wild card. What's your strategy going to be? Okay, I think now that Bill is a seasoned candidate, he can go first. So draw out your question, mate. There you go. And this is a high trust environment, so we're going to let the candidates read out their question.
What would you like to drink? No, that can't be it. How do you balance the needs and expectations of today's voters with the needs and generations to come 30, 50 or 70 years from now?
Stand up.
You only do that because you knew I had a knee replacement. And which reminds me to remind to the lady that asked me about going for walks, why I don't do them currently. This is a matter of something I use in business, which is Kaizen, which is continual improvement. So whenever you set out a plan, you should be thinking about the needs of people 30, 50, 70 years in the future, yes, but you also should be constantly reviewing, because one of the dangers of setting plans in cement is circumstances change, technology changes, the environment has different impacts, and the community changes. So yes, long-term plans need to be revised, and we constantly need to think of the future. Thank you very much.
Any wild cards on that one? Just hand your microphone to Cam. And Cam, put your cup of tea down. Or give it to Nelson. Yeah, very good. Teamwork. Teamwork, that's what we like to see. Oh, no, he's not playing his wild card. He's putting it away now.
This is really nice. Can someone read it to me?
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
How will you approach the challenge of incorporating long-term strategic thinking in an environment where elected representatives are often rewarded for shiny, short-term achievements?
Up you up, mate.
Well, I think with planning, we need to have a long-term lens on it to start with. So what we have plans need to be set, and they need to not be able to be changed every time we change the council. The same thing we do with the government is we need stable long-term plans for environment that we can review but not remove. And I think that's the only way forward to have genuine long-term planning and decisions about the environment.
Cool. Thanks, Cam.
Thank you, Nelson.
Any wild cards? Yes, we've got our first wild card of the evening. This is exciting. Thank you, Zach. Grab the microphone from Nelson and go for it, mate.
Cheers. The point of short-term approaches is, yes, they're shiny and they get quick results and they're good feathers in people's hats. But the thing is, our world is complicated. We need to have strong, long-term plans to get long-term goals underway. These are outside of 2-3 years. It's about what our world is going to look like 20 years from now, 50 years now, 100 years from now. I mean, what is our world going to be like in 2035? Okay, yeah, so we've got to think about what our world is going to look like in 2035, 2045, or 2125. That's the world our children, the generations further down the line, the human race in the future are going to be living. So we have to look after them now. We need to put in small things, can gather moss over a period of time, and create big consequential results in 100 years' time. The choices we make now can make a huge difference on the future. So we need to have a good approach to the long-term plans, put them in action now so that we do have a good future. I'd like to think people 100 years from now can go for a walk in the park, pet animals, go visit natural environments, and I better sit down before the kiwi bites.
Lovely. Thank you, Zach. Thank you for introducing the wild card. Nelson's got a microphone. He's got a question. Let's go.
So I've got, what are some of the things that City Council can do with its parking policies to increase patronage on our buses? It's a tricky question. I think that maybe I'm going to go the opposite way of what the person asking this question wanted. Whereas I think that the parking in the city, it does have some real issues, but also we need accessible parking to the people that work in the cities. We need parks so people can come and be in the CBD and can spend time in there. I think the way that parking fines are managed at the moment is not great, and a lot of people can't afford those parks. I've heard of people even near the Horizons building going and having to walk quite a distance to get to their cars at the end of the day, which when it's dark is not necessarily safe either. So I think we need better parking systems. I think that pretty much sums it up.
Lovely. Thank you, Nelson. Lorna Johnson coming in with the wild card. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I just thought I'd take the opportunity to give my own point of view and point to something that I have actually done to back up my point of view, which is people will not use buses unless there's a better incentive to ride the bus than there is to bring their private car into the city. And one of the things that we haven't done well as a council is charging adequately for parking. Our parking has been one of the cheapest parkings in the whole of the Lower North Island. Myself and the Mayor suggested that it be increased earlier this year, and it has gone up a little bit. It's still quite cheap. I believe that people should pay for the privilege of bringing their cars into the city. And if we don't increase the cost of parking, then people won't be using the buses. Horizons have done their bit. They've increased the frequency of the buses, and they've modernised the routes so that they're simple and easy to understand. So trying to get people to use public transport is a little bit of carrot and a little bit of stick. And if the City Council makes a lot of parking free in the central city, where's the incentive to use the bus? So opposite point of view.
We've got multiple wild cards at play here. I need to take it from you, I'm sorry. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, always interesting. I think dogs and parking are two things that can obviously generate a lot of discussion, as we've learned at council recently. And I wanted to pick up on a couple points around parking. The first one was around Featherston Street and why we would or wouldn't remove the about a dozen car parks that are left in that stretch. The reason that I was strongly in support of that is because the original design that was developed by the actual engineers included no parking, and it included full access for emergency vehicles. We caved as council to some very strong but narrow-minded lobbying that demanded car parks immediately outside of very few shops. So for 12 car parks, maybe 16, I can't remember the exact number, that have, wait for it, peak utilization of 42%, we have lost a corridor for emergency services. That is not good enough. So we do need to actually get some spine. Oh, can I say spine in this room? We need to actually get some spine around how we do manage transport in this community. Around around the city centre question, we do need to seriously contemplate a commuter parking management strategy that actually looks at all-day parking, because nothing is actually free, but yet we give away public space every day and we lock it up for block on block on block. So we're talking Cook to College to probably Albert to Featherston, actually looking at an all-day parking permit regime in there. Did somebody not start the clock?
No, well, you brought Parliament's rules into this, so you started it.
And that would generate significant revenue by which we could actually rebalance some of the link between public transport and car parking. Thank you.
Excellent.
Oh, you want the microphone?
Yeah, I'd like the microphone now, please. Yeah, very good. Thank you. Someone else would like to use it. There you go, Tobias. Thank you. Rude.
Okay, so I was thinking that one thing you could do with the parking policy is if you get a parking fine or if you pay for parking, part of that could be discounted in exchange for bus fare. So you could take the money that people have to pay and they could, nominate a percentage of it, and that could possibly discount the severity of the fine or the degree of the payment for the car park. I was just also thinking about the utilisation of buses and the option of walking in the city. And I think if we freed up some of the space that's in the city, which is currently devoted to a car-centric transport network, that could really make the place a lot more comfortable for people to walk. I would walk with my kids from a greater distance into the city when we have stuff to do, if it was a nicer experience. At the moment, it's a little bit, so there's ways that we could improve that environment for people. And another thing I was thinking about the Featherston Street thing, how it was designed for emergency services to be able to use that side corridor, and people say, well, emergency services have said we don't use it because it's going to be counterintuitive for people to pull over to the middle. I was thinking we have fire drills for businesses and for places of work. Why couldn't we have a fire drill for the street where they practice it a couple of times just to get people into the idea of how it works?
Excellent. Good fun and good use of, but wait, there's more. Here we go. Thank you, sir. Yeah.
There's a trick in life, and that is to get people to do what you want them to do, make it easy. And my criticism is a city that spent $44,000 a bus shelter and bought them from Christchurch in collaboration with Wellington and etching surfaces in Hamilton without offering better options through our local community. We could have had 400 bus shelters. Now I get people saying I'm an idiot and I should stand in the rain dressed like this on a southerly. I won't. So I take the car. And I think most of us would. So better shelters, better facilities, rather than lean-tos, can we have somewhere where we can sit on a bus shelter? Make it pleasant.
Excellent. Any other parking enthusiasts amongst us? No. Very good. No, very well done, team. You've got the gist of how this works. Played it well. Here you go, Tobias. Have a microphone. Very good.
To what extent is recycling the answer to reducing waste? I would say much less than a lot of people who are enthusiastic about it would say. It's great to have the recycling facility because then I don't have to spend as much, although it's probably accounted for by the rates. So what we really have to do is reduce the amount of waste production rather than trying to recycle things. A lot of the plastic recycling is not that effective. Metal recycling actually is great. I think a huge chunk of the metal that we use, the steel, is actually recycled. So there's some things that it can work for, and you could potentially develop new technologies that would improve the effectiveness of recycling, but at the moment I think it's much more used than its effectiveness would justify.
Very good. Anybody else? Yes, Nelson is going to play his card. There we go.
So there's obviously an area that I know a lot about. But yeah, Tobias is right that we need to look at both sides of the story. We need to look at where waste is being created and where resources are being used, not just look at how to recycle materials. But we do have a big opportunity where we can improve our recycling for the city through partnering with the neighbouring councils. So instead of us paying to have our curbside taken like we do, working with the likes of Manawatū District Council, who has their own separate facility that they pay a commercial operator for, why are they not paying Palmerston North to be able to take their recycling and sort it? Like we already do that for Horowhenua District Council, and there's a lot of opportunities like that we could lower our costs as a city. We could create scales of economy and have some better infrastructure around how we do waste, There's a lot of missed opportunities like food scraps, which not everybody takes part in that, so it would be expensive to roll that out across the city. But there is a real opportunity for households that do create a lot of food waste that they should be given the option to have that service, and it's a big way we can reduce our emissions. And we do have a pretty amazing compost facility up in Awapuni, so it's not like it has to travel all the way to Reparoa like some people are suggesting. But thank you.
Okay, we're going to come to Michael now, who's going to draw a question.
Transportation is the biggest contributor to city emissions. What will you do to make cleaner modes of transport more attractive so emissions can be reduced? So I get to give a parking answer without having to use my wildcard. I think it's right. It's a combination of the carrot and the stick, and there's a lot of backlash against alternative transport because it comes to mind the old adage that for those who are used to privilege, equality seems like oppression. And car transport has been privileged since at least the Second World War and possibly before, because all our roads have been built with cars in mind. Motorways have divided communities, motorways have destroyed habitats, they've fragmented habitats, which means that species need to get from one side to the other. They've increased roadkill. They're responsible for 3 times more deaths from air pollution than road accidents. Cars are responsible for most of the nitrous oxide deaths and a lot of the particulate matter deaths. That's according to a health research centre in New Zealand. And I think we need to charge more for car parking. We need to have the free bus service. We could cross-subsidise so that parking fines and parking charges are put into the bus service. We need better cycle facilities, and I should say that cycle facilities should be built by people who have ridden a bicycle in the city. There's a lot of hairy ones in Auckland. And I'd just say that we need to stop this entrenched privilege. Thank you.
That was a superb sense of timing there. Now, are you wildcarding or are we going to the basket? We're going straight to the basket for Katie.
The endless quest for growth is unsustainable. What do you think about the concept of degrowth? Well, I think about it constantly. So I think the very concept of the word sustainable or a sustainable action is something that you can repeat in perpetuity. It's not a linear concept. Growth is a linear concept because it can't be perpetuated forever. Degrowth is essentially a transition concept of working our way out of a linear system into a circular system, and that's only really worked in deindustrialised civilizations. So it's incredibly challenging. It's pretty much a way of trying to avoid collapse of industrial systems. So there's a lot of theory on it, and I think a lot of people are wishing that government is able to transition into a degrowth scenario where we are managing a descent to manage our finite resources. I'd really like to see that come into the conversation a whole bunch more than it does, but at this point we're still talking about sustainable growth and we're still talking about balance, but those resources are finite, so it's not a sustainable situation at the moment. Sorry, it's a bit bleak.
Thanks, Katie. Anybody want to use their wildcard to wade into degrowth? I didn't think so. Okay. Mr. Barrett, off you go.
My question's around, do you support the development of natural burial options in the Palmerston North area being established ASAP, and if re-elected, what will you do to ensure this happens? So this is a topic that's been before council for decades, literally, around actually getting an option for natural burials that is closer to our communities here than they currently are. And the reality is that right now, if you want to have a natural burial option, you have to see your loved one interred either in Otaki, Wanganui, or Central Hawke's Bay, which is fundamentally very disruptive to the options that you would want to have available at end of life, like having a local way to have that natural burial option is incredibly important. So actually in this room, about a year ago or maybe 2 years ago, there was a meeting that brought this back up into council in a much more formal way, because it had been at the council table for a number of times and never really got acted on properly. So there's now a reasonable chance of getting an option local, most likely in Ashhurst. That's been through a consultation process and will be a decision that will come to the next term council, so I'm strongly in support of it. I think it's only fair and reasonable. There's well over a dozen of these facilities throughout the country, and it's actually a bit of a shame that our community is actually one of the last to get into this space rather than being one of the first. I acknowledge some of the champions in the room, including Jean Hara, who's been advocating for this tirelessly, and it's taken longer than it should have, Jean.
Another very fine example of full use of the 90 seconds. Didn't even need to get the bird.
What are your views on the use of 1080? Well, 1080 is used extensively in New Zealand, mainly airdrop from carrots and things like that. But I lost a dog years ago in Paraparam to 1080. So I'm not a fan of 1080 in any way, shape or form, because it doesn't just kill the animals that it's aimed at. It also can kill animals that it's not aimed at. And my dog died because it ate a possum that had eaten 1080. So I'm very much against it, so I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you, Lou. A nice succinct answer too. Michael would like to play his wild card, and we've got a couple of other wild cards, it looks like. Cool.
I'm an animal rights activist and I'm a conservationist, and I can see the ethical tension in those. But basically, I'm opposed to 1080. I'm not opposed to it because I think the government is trying to use it to plot against us, and I'm not opposed to it because I think that hunters should be allowed to kill things their way instead of using 1080. I'm against it because it is cruel and inhumane, and I can understand that we need to get rid of some invasive animals, but I believe in the compassionate conservation view that this should be done non-lethally if possible, and if it should be done lethally, as quickly and painlessly as possible. Now, possums are hated with a passion, and it's based on demonisation. This display at Te Papa, which shows a possum like this stalking a bird. Possums do not eat birds as a general rule. There's only a couple of instances in the scientific literature, whereas 50 years of stomach samples by ecologists have not found a hair, a shell, or a feather. So yes, they maybe sometimes do. It's aberrant behaviour. Some humans eat other humans, but it's hardly normal eating patterns. The biggest pest in New Zealand is rats. And in the United States, a contraceptive bait has been developed for rats, and I think it's time we brought that in, because that would also prevent the secondary poisoning that Lou's talking about, which is also a problem with 1080. And I think we should use our brains and look for more compassionate alternatives. Thank you.
Caleb wants to play his wild card. Have we got the mic assist over there?
Yes, so as someone who does work in conservation, I didn't really have too much of an idea of 1080, the effects of 1080 before I'd started my current mahi. But all I've seen from the results where 1080 has been applied in the correct spaces, it has flourished the ngāhere, where the trees have been able to rejuvenise and revitalise, growing to stronger than before. The manu have been able to return without predators, and they're able to be looked after. So 1080 has caught a bad rep from how it was first initially laid out, because it was something new and they didn't know how to use it. So a lot of the contractors just put it out however they saw fit, and now there is a lot of regulations that DOC abide by and do that. So for a city use, it was not ideal. We would be better use for trapping systems and bait, and as Michael has said, a contraceptive bait would be a lot better so it doesn't cause that pain. For areas out Tarahukawa track, it would be perfect. You know, our dogs should be on leads out there, so they shouldn't be running off and eating any possum off track, you know, because that is a responsible dog owner, just letting your dog go, because dogs out there are a major threat to the birds. So it is one of those things. It needs to be applied, but applied correctly, and we can utilise it as a resource instead of a lot of this negative that it has had. So, ngā mihi nui.
Okay, let's head into the second row. Dave, grab your question.
What will you do to improve safety for cyclists and walkers in the city? I kind of like the natural burial idea. I've always said to my family, what are you going to do with me when I pass? I will get to the question. They said, we're going to pop you in the recycle bin and leave you at the gate on a Thursday morning. And I thought, that's not a bad idea. A, it's cheap. B, it is a recycle bin, so I'm coming back. I think that's the best way possible. One of the problems we have in Palmerston North, when I first arrived here 25 years ago, I couldn't believe the number of cyclists around the city. Plenty of people. Reminded me of Invercargill, my old hometown. Lots of cyclists down there as well. But you don't see a hell of a lot these days, and I wonder why. I think traffic is certainly a problem in Palmerston North. I live in Ferguson Street, and the biggest problem I've got is backing out of my driveway. I've got to back out. When it's okay that way, it's not okay that way, so I go back in. I go back out, same again. I could be in and out 6 times before I can actually back out of my driveway. I go down Ferguson Street to town, and the Cook Street roundabout, where there might have been 1 car, this morning there were 9 cars, all stopped, just waiting to get through. But the question is cyclists and walkers. Cyclists should be given encouragement from an ecological and a fitness point of view to get around the city, but also cars have got to share that road as well. Walkers around the city, there's plenty of opportunity. All you do is move 1 foot after the other. Plenty of places you can walk. The river is an ideal place as well. So I think we're okay as far as that's concerned.
Lovely. Thank you, Dave. I can see there's a wild card being sought over here. Thank you very much. Rachel Bowen. Your card, please, madam. Thank you.
I was hoping to save that. I'm just popping up because it seems like all the good questions are going early. Making cycling safer. This is a bit personal for me. I was, ironically, knocked off my bike on the way to a council meeting in Cycling Awareness Week. And I broke my elbow, and that was a very painful experience. Like many of your experiences, I'm sure, I have children who've cycled to school, and one of those has been knocked off his bike on multiple occasions. You know, cycle safety is something we should be able to take for granted, and we can't as things stand. If we want our kids to cycle to school, parents have to feel like that's safe. Otherwise, they won't let them. It's not whether kids want to, it's that parents won't allow it. And that's a real concern. So how do you make parents feel like that's a safe choice for their children? And I think one of the big answers to that is protected cycleways. And I get that that's a difficult conversation. Remember many years ago, Councillor Barrett and I had a bold move in the Chamber and suggested that we shouldn't build roads without protected cycleways. And the planning team really had conniptions, and that didn't go very much further. But we need to think about it really seriously. And yes, people can walk, but we need to think about sufficient pavement space for them to be able to do that safely. We need to think about shade cover for the walking infrastructure around the city where possible, whether that's been built infrastructure or natural infrastructure, to make walking and cycling safe options.
Excellent. Okay, it's time for Richard to draw his question out.
My question is, how can we improve the health and quality of our waterways? Very good question, because obviously I deal with this a lot. One of those is obviously, it is in the works at the moment through our Nature Calls project. I've had the privilege of working with Horowhenua District Council's water infrastructure, so that's in Levin. And previous to what they did previously was they discharged directly into the Horowhenua Lake. That effectively poisoned that lake and means that the biodiversity within that lake was completely unsustainable and has created a situation where they can't grow anything and there's no fish and that sort of thing. They moved towards a land-based discharge system, which I have personally installed a lot of equipment on, and it is an incredibly effective tool for not allowing that the same damage to the ecosystem as would otherwise be when you discharge to the water. It works really well. It is effectively a pine forest that they discharge effluent to, or a lower grade effluent, and that means that discharge doesn't go into the water systems and it doesn't eventually get to our groundwater, which means that their bores have more security and our drinking water is cleaner.
Excellent. Anybody want to compete with that? No. Very good. Lorna.
Thank you. Yes. So we were having a bit of chat about the questions at lunchtime, and I said, I really don't want this one. And this is the one I've got, so here you go. What are your thoughts on how PNCC can transition from neoliberal ecocidal growth narratives to a resilient community-centric model? So, I mean, I have given this quite a lot of thought, actually, because I thought it was an interesting question. It's a bit loaded, but fundamentally, I just don't believe that everything should be about the most profit, about private business, about council getting rid of assets and leaving everything to the market economy. I actually believe that we should be having a collective approach to things, that we should be looking after the most vulnerable, and that we should be working together to build sustainable systems. So it's not a difficult question in that sense. How that can be done, I think, is quite tricky, because on council it's very hard to do anything without community buy-in. We go out and consult on what we think is the best thing to do, but then community has a say. So it's about changing the narrative in the community so that people understand the advantages of having a more collective approach to things instead of, every man for himself approach, which seems to be the narrative of the current government, to make a political statement. So I think the best way that we can do it is through education, through perhaps small-scale pilots, where we can show people the advantage of actually doing something positive in a small way. And just to give you an example of that, our pilot project on homelessness has worked to rehome 70 people who are sleeping on the streets of the city. So that's the sort of thing I think we could be doing.
I thought there might be some wild cards on this one.
Yeah.
Mr. Vaughan Dennison.
Thank you. I think Lorna put on a pilot program, and I think this is where the district plan and the rules around what's allowable in some of our rural communities, because I think there is a desire for people to live more simply and sustainable and to do it in community. And I think the rules currently don't allow it. My professional life I spend with Homes for People, and we do housing, we do medium density, and we've had requests to look at doing a land property where people can bring on their tiny home or bring in some relocates and actually have some compost toilets, have the chickens roaming around and all that type of stuff. And we've got a model which we believe would be really practical for some communal facilities, but also have some support around that. And so I'd like to see some changes in the district plan to make all that allowable for people to live how they choose to, and without putting all the restrictions and red tape in the way. I think it's a real problem. Thank you.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you, Vaughan. The microphone is with Jack. Excellent. Go for it.
My question is, what is the value of developing a community-focused, citywide climate action plan? I would say is that at the value of this developing a community focus, I think it cannot be 100%, but it could be because it do cost the taxpayers a lot of money if we develop a community focus in itself and a citywide climate actions plan, because if we are too conscious that we keep on putting the money into this, and then I don't think that the rest of it will be hard, because we have to have a certain amount. I mean, what says that cannot be totally focused, because it's not at a critical moment. At this moment, it's not a critical time, because you look at the, no matter how you want to prevent it, it's not possible. I mean, let us look at samples that the supermarket plastics. So we eliminated the plastic into paper, but there are still plastic need to be used. So no matter how you do it, it's not going to be 100%. So that is what I think.
We'll go to Debbie and then we'll come to Katie.
Thank you. One of the things that I think is really crucial is that we should be planning, and when we plan for things that are happening in our community, then we have a responsiveness plan so that when something does happen, we're at the ready and people are accountable, and we can get people mobilised really, really quickly. I mean, we've seen this year, last year, increasingly, that our communities are being devastated by climate change. The flooding on the east coast, the flooding up by Muriwai and all those other things, where lives have been lost, where people are having to be inconvenienced or move away from home, from their schools, their jobs are gone and so forth. We've seen how catastrophic that's been. But I think if we have a community-focused, citywide climate action plan, that we're at the ready. It's not a matter of if, but it's when. And I think we were very fortunate in previous times that it wasn't us. And so hence I think that if we have a plan and we all know what we're doing, then we can work collaboratively, we can plan collaboratively, we can work cooperatively to look after our people. Because you're right, Jack's right in terms of we don't know when it'll happen or what will happen. However, it is about being at the ready, because hope isn't a strategy. Kia ora.
Thank you. I was really pleased that Brent and I, with the support of our colleagues, were able to get such a plan over the line in the long-term plan. I think the real benefit of a community-facing climate action plan is that, firstly, everyone can understand what the risks are to this city specifically, and then secondly, what the on-ramps are, what the actions are to be able to adapt to those risks and what is being put in place at a council level, at local government level, but also at a community level, at a business level, and at an individual level, so that wherever you are at and learning about our climate crisis, there is an on-ramp for you to know that there is a plan, you know what the risks are, and here are all the different ways that we can work together to respond to it. And council already has a climate action plan for the council, but it's very inward facing. We're working on our business continuity, we're working on our mitigations and our adaptations. A community facing action plan is something that we all do together. And it brings everyone along with the risks that face us all, and that time spent in reconnaissance is seldom wasted. Why would we not have a plan when we're facing massive existential risk?
Lovely, thanks. Oh, we got...
Is it Rachel? Oh, Debbie.
Debbie. You're playing your wild card on a question you've already answered?
No, I want to re-emphasize it.
Sure.
From my experience.
Didn't expect it, but it's not outside the rules.
Well, Auckland has experienced a major disaster of flooding. And then many places was flood, and some of the house need to be demolished because of the flood. And then they take a lot of action plans and this and that and that. But when the second time came, there are still houses that is still there, still get flood because of the low-lying area that is not able to correct it. So we have to put the money where it's important. Planning is good, but we must also know that the possibility of reoccurring it again we may not even take it again, because the hurricane don't see that your plan and then you can execute it. Nature disaster, nobody can estimate how big it can be. As what one of my friend came to tell me, that whether he should sell the property to the council or he should keep it. And then she keep it, and then I told her that it may reoccur again, because he says that, the council has made the drainage bigger, expanded, and now should not be. But when the second storm came, and then it was flooding again. So I will ask the council, what is it going to happen?
Okay. New question. This time it's Debbie drawing from the baskets. Here we go.
Can I just say I'm so pleased I didn't get fire Lorna's one. What is your stance on central government directives to focus on growth, including housing developments and expansions, when our systems are already at capacity? That's really interesting. I think in my time at council, what I have come across is the fact that central government have been sending fast and furious over the last few years all these reforms, these new policies, very little resourcing behind it, if not any resourcing, telling council you will be doing this and this is what's going to happen, and then in public making a comment about how useless local government is. And I find that ironic, because we here know our people, we know our city, we love our city, and yet someone in Wellington can decree that everyone, one size fits all, and all around the country this is going to be what happens. We know what our community want, we know what they need, and I think it's really I suppose I've been really disheartened with central government and their stance on things. I think there's low trust with local government, and yet we're trying our very best. We live here. We love this place. So we know that we need to be putting things in place for our people. We know the areas, the housing developments and so forth, and expansions. We know what's appropriate for the area in which we live. And I would say I would prefer central government at times to butt out. Kia ora.
Kia ora, fire. No?
Wild card from the back row.
I want to go home.
You can go home. No, I appreciate what Debbie had to say early on, but I think also we need to be realistic about where the nation is going and going forward. Palmerston North is expected to grow, and we're projected by 2030, 5 years from now, to grow to 100,000 people. And then by 2043 to 108,000 people. We need to be smart about where we grow and how we grow. Growth is going to come. We're going to experience growth because we're going to have a lot of people moving into Palmerston North. That's something that we cannot avoid. Therefore, we need to plan for our growth by making sure that we've got the infrastructure ready to make sure that we accommodate the growth that we're going to experience in a timely way. We do not want to be like Tauranga or Hamilton that experienced a growth that they didn't expect because they had all the Aucklanders moving into the region. The same way we're having all the Wellingtonians moving to Masterton, Levin, Otaki, and driving house prices up. We need to plan for it. We need to plan for that growth. So I welcome central government's decision or directives to actually plan for that growth. Thank you.
Nobody else?
Thanks, Orphe. Rachel's turn to draw a question.
I swapped my question last night, got into a little negotiation. What is Council's role in helping to address the overwhelming prevalence of plastics in our landfill, public places and lives? Oh, there's a lot in that one, isn't there? What is Council's role? That's the question. And I know there's a lot of community angst that we don't have, for example, soft plastic recycling. I think that's a big issue for people. And I'm not quite sure what the answer to that is, when it seems that there's lots of places that have it that are smaller than us. So we should be advocating for that. But recycling, and I think this has been said already, is not the answer to the plastics problem. Reducing the amount of plastics in the system is the answer to the problem. But what is Council's role in that? Well, clearly we have a leadership role in setting community expectations. Things like our events programme, and Nelson knows exactly what I'm going to talk about here, because it's about not having plastic, disposable, throwaway containers for food and drinks at our own events. We can model some different ways of doing things there by providing options that are either compostable, again, not entirely the best answer, or reusable through systems like where we set up with our washing stands. So we can do things to model different ways of working, different ways of being. I think a lot of the problem is when people don't see an alternative. They only, if you make what's the right answer, the easy thing, that's what happens. Somebody's already said that already. So Council has a role in leadership and working with community groups to put solutions in people's way. And ENM do some great work in that regard. So thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Any wild cards on that one? No. In that case, we'll go to Kane.
So my question here is, what role can Environment Network Manawatū play in supporting Council's objectives? I think community groups as a whole are the action pieces for the policy that comes from on top. So they are the ones that can add the individual actions into the big policy statements. They can look big and scary and distill it down to people to enable them to actually take actions within their own lives and within their own communities. So I very much see a lot of the work that the Environment Network Manawatū has done in the past, and you look at the 4PO that you've talked about there, it is very much about empowering the community to take actions on an individual or a collective basis that feeds back into the council objectives. So that's where I think not only Environment Network Manawatū, but all of those other community groups that align and look to add value to our communities, that's where they sort of fit within the council's remit.
Cool. Any wild cards? No wild cards. In that case, Caleb, have at it.
What is the value of water bodies in the urban areas? Now, a lot of the areas that we've used for urban areas have been reclaimed land from wetlands, so that is not a large issue with our flooding areas. So we need to sort out our drainage, but having appropriate wetlands helps with that drainage for our cities. So if we can, in our plans moving forward, to start to utilise urbanisation along with wetlands and natural green areas is an ideal way that we can both move forward as an environmental way and also as an urban development to create a better future that we can live side by side. It isn't all just one way we need to be thinking about building houses and buildings and infrastructure. We need to be thinking about our nativeness as well. Like I said earlier, no one comes to New Zealand to look at our buildings and skyscrapers and anything that we've brought in. They come here to look at what we've naturally grown and how we move forward together, because New Zealand is a combination of diverse groups and communities of people. So together, our groups of bodies of water and urban areas can coexist. Jeez, thank you.
Thank you, Caleb. If there's no wild cards on that one, we'll go to Vaughan. Take a question and carry on.
My question is, an observation has been made about how there are more trees planted in the wealthier parts of the city. Where do you see evidence of inequity within our city, and what do you think could be done about it? This has been probably an issue that's been held over decades, with some of the more wealthiers having some of the more beautiful trees. And I believe some of the things that we hear from the community are that we want to have more fruit trees. I think we could be planting more fruit trees in all suburbs of the city. We have a stop now on cutting down trees, because there was actually some residents saying that they felt their trees were overhanging and whatever, and so the simple solution was just cut them at the trunk, which was unfortunate. But we put a stop on that. So there is a protection of trees. And what I would like to suggest is that we actually find those areas where there's streets, that we not only just plant fruit trees, but any other trees that we feel are missing. So I would recognise that there is a problem in that space, and it's something we could probably be better at. So I'm not defending the work of council to date. I'd be into addressing the problem and looking at the investment needed for that. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you, Vaughan. I think Orphe, you're up, mate. Come and grab a question.
So my question says that there is a lot of change on the horizon coming from central government, which impacts local government. How can council be prepared for these unknown changes? I have to say it's been quite challenging actually leading being part of the political leadership of Palmerston North, trying to navigate all the changes that have been coming through central government, not just this government but also the previous government, because these reforms have been ongoing since I've been on the council. And that makes it very challenging to sometimes make a decision, and sometimes informed decision, because let's take local water Dunwell, for example. We've been making deals on them with very little information coming actually from central government, or let alone the minister in charge of local government. So it's been very challenging to deal in this environment. But how we can be prepared for it, I think, by keeping our finger on the pulse, by making sure that we are in tune to those to the reforms, aware of those reforms, and also that we have the tools to be able to respond to some of those reforms and constructively challenge central government where some of those reforms are unworkable. And I think that's something that we're not doing efficiently currently, especially around pushing back to central government. So I like what Mayor Helen Warboys, for example, did with the Three Waters reform. We might have different views on that, but the fact that she was very strong in advocating for her community is the kind of leadership that we want to see in the city as well, where we can constructively push back on central government with unworkable, when they have reforms that we deem unworkable. Thank you.
Thanks, Orphe. Just pass the microphone on. And we'll get Zach to take a question on his way out.
Okay, I'm going to get one of these that I haven't swatted for. Okay, let's have a see. Okay, what have I drawn out? Okay, this is good. What priority would I give to ensuring climate plan actions are resourced and implemented? That's a good one, because I think, as I said earlier, environmental planning is something we all need to address. We can't run away from it. I don't understand why anybody would want to. We need to come up with good strategies for short-term and long-term, as I said earlier. We need to look at what's prioritised by what is, well, I think we need to look at current emergencies first, what we need to put first. We need to make sure it's cost effective, we need to make sure it's doable and put the plans into action now. We need to do SWOT analysis on the different options we have to ensure the best outcomes and make sure they are cost effective. But as I said earlier, climate is important, environment is important, and we do need to take positive action and keep that positive action going in terms of short-term and long-term plans. That's vital. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Zach. Hold on to that. Cool. All right. Our next contestant is Zolfika.
The question says, I would like to know when the cycle track to Ashhurst will be completed. I would like to know bike these without having to go on the main road. I'm not sure whether it's a question or wish or asking me whether I support this thing. I would say I would like to it be completed before this person who has made the question. I would like the cycleway to be completed even earlier than this person is wishing. That's all I can say. I'm not sure what the magic thing is because I have heard, even when I was council, I heard some of the senior members that we have discussed it about 10 years ago, and we're still discussing it. But I wish we could do it in the next term.
Lovely. Thanks, Zolfika. And Karen. Hey?
So my question is, do you support bolstering the range of responsible recycling and composting options in Palmerston North? If so, how would you progress this, e.g. soft plastics, batteries, textiles, food scraps, electronics? So I think each one of these options just needs to be considered on its merits. I think what we really need to do is collaborate. I think someone's already talked about it, collaborate with our partners. Sometimes these things may not be a cost-effective thing to do just by ourselves, but if we work with partners and those around us, we can perhaps get a solution that is going to work and be viable. So yeah, I think we always need to be looking at additional options. I don't think we can always do everything at once, but we do need to consider what things we can progress that are viable with the resource that we have.
And there's a wild card behind you, Karen.
So this is coming from I suppose a personal experience. So we do when in my role, we do some of the maintenance for our Manawatū recycling facility. It's a wonderful facility, but I think a lot of times it's a question of education for a lot of people. I've been to 3 fires within of our Manawatū recycling facility where people have dropped off batteries into their recycling bins. So a lot of it is basically, and then they obviously get damaged by the truck and they cause a fire. I've changed the belts because of the fire that has effectively caused the rubber belt to melt, and it causes garbage to melt, which obviously releases a lot of horrible toxins and stuff into the atmosphere. So it starts largely with education, and the same thing with soft plastics. Soft plastics, unfortunately, by their design, are long, stringy and flexible, which is effectively the enemy of bearings and things that rotate, and they get caught up in them and they require a lot of maintenance to do. So a lot of it is around education of people and making sure they understand the risks around the things that they're putting in their recycling.